Alrighty, so let's cook a little bit. We're going to have today some collard greens. Now, these are the collard greens that I cut the other day, um, and they are pretty fresh. They're good. And what I have here, I have my garlic, and then I have onion. And then over here behind me, that I need to reach for a little bit, is I have bacon. And I've basically cut this bacon into little cubes. Um, if you break them down, these are still frozen a little bit, but you see these little bits and pieces. So these little sticks like this, when they come out that size, like that, we call those lardons. Lardons, lardons. And that's a common, chef will say, cut me, a half a cup of bacon lardon. That is what chef is talking about. So we're going to start with that. This is my cast iron Dutch oven. I have an extensive collection of cast iron. I really enjoy cooking in cast iron. Most of the cooking we do is in cast iron. You don't have to do this in cast iron, but I would recommend that it's a large pot because we have a lot of collard greens, but they will cook down. So hopefully, I want to see that's a little hot. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit. What I want to do is I want to render the bacon. And I want to do that a little slow. Yeah, this is a little hot. So I'm going to pull it over here for the moment. Let me move this. Maybe I put it back here. You can still see it while it's off the heat. There you go. So it's a little too hot. So rather than turning the burner down, which I've already done, and this burner is really very slow to respond, I move it off the heat. And again, this is a little hot for what I want. I wanted more of a medium to medium-low heat. The rendering of the bacon is really best if it's done slowly because all the fat comes out of it and it doesn't get chewy. It gets crispy if it's done slowly. If you do it too quickly and you brown it up very quickly, bacon that's rendered like that, it tends to, again, to come out chewy. It's not a good texture. So we like to do this process kind of slow. Now, we go to Costco and buy bacon. There we go. So, see, I'm not hearing the sizzling anymore. Just a little bit right here where it's still touching the burner. So I'm going to move it back on the burner. Okay. So my bacon is fully rendered. You can see it looks really very, very crisp. I think my temperature has stabilized. I think I got that one little piece. See how it's still bubbling in there? It's still not fully rendered, but that's kind of what we're looking for. When it's still sizzling like that, there's still a little bit of moisture in there, and we want to drive that out. So we can't drive it out quickly. So at this point, I'm going to put in my onions. And no, I didn't drain any of that out, any of that bacon fat. That's flavor. I'm going to leave that flavor in there. So I'm going to do a little salt and pepper right now. The salt will help pull the moisture out of those onions a little faster. And garlic, not yet. What we're going to do is we're going to let these onions get translucent. Then I'm going to move this off the heat just for a moment. Add the garlic, let the garlic sweat down a little bit because I don't want to burn the garlic. I don't want to get any bitter flavor in here. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So you want the bright white to go away of the onions. You don't want the onions to look raw at any point. They all should have this kind of a translucent look to them, and these do. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over here just really quick. Do that. Let that cook for just a second. Bring that back here. All right. Wow. Smells great. So I'm going to go ahead and open these. And these, of course, have already been washed. And I have my storage that I did where I have the paper towels in there. Now you can see how they're all nice and clean and dry. And they are ready to go. So, yes, this looks like a lot of greens, but greens, as you probably are aware, they cook down. They lose a lot of volume as they cook. So I really wanted to get that garlic heated all the way through and not much more. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and do this. Yes. So now you're seeing why I tell you got to have a big pot. It's going to cook down, but to get the cooking started, you got to have a big pot. All right. So, luckily, I have within an easy reach my trusty tongs. I'm going to stir this around a little bit. And yes, they're going to try to jump out. That's just how it is. Until they start to wilt a little bit and lose a little bit of their volume. But you really do have to do this, or else that stuff on the bottom is going to burn. So at this point, I haven't added any more liquid. Alright, so you see it's already dropping down in volume. Oh, there it goes. Alright, let's check on our greens. Ooh, yeah. So it's only been a couple minutes. Doesn't take long for them for this initial part. So now what we have, these are cooked down. So we started with them and they were falling out the sides, and now you can see they're doing much better. They've all cooked down. The volume is vastly reduced. I'm going to quit banging that because it's probably very loud. So I'm going to do, I'll reach in here. I can't because the camera's in the way. So when I move the camera, I'm going to put just a small pinch of red pepper flakes in there, just a small. I really don't want them to be spicy, but I want them just to have kind of a hint of that in the background. So this is my water, and that is probably a little over a cup of water. And this is going to cook for a while. So we don't want to run the risk of the water completely evaporating. So I put plenty of water in there. I have my heat set on a relatively low heat, and I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to check it every now and then. So I'm going to check this after 45 minutes and see what it looks like. It's going to get even darker. It's going to lose even more volume. And then I'll taste it. Then after that, I'll season it, and to finish it, I put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there, and that gives it a little nice bite. And that's a very southern thing to do with collard greens. So we're going to let this cook, and then we'll come back in just a little bit and see how it's doing. All right, so it's been a little over 45 minutes. I did come over here and turn it down just a little bit because it was a little bit lively, bubbling away. So here we have, you can see, it's certainly a much darker color now. There's still a little liquid in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to leave this off. I have tasted it, and it's tender. I'm going to cook some of that liquid down. And when I can do that, and I can see the bottom of the pot, then I'm going to take this out and cool it. Of course, if you're ready to eat, you could, at this point, I would put in 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to this much greens. That's a whole bunch of greens, what we call a mess of greens back in the South. I'd put in 2 tablespoons and taste it. And then start adjusting your seasonings from there. If you put in too much vinegar right off the bat, you've ruined it, because there's no way to take that taste out, and it's just super, super sour. So we'll start with a little bit, and then, as I like to say, we'll sneak up on the flavor a little bit from the ground up. So have fun, enjoy your greens. If you've never had collard greens, they're really very delicious. I would recommend maybe eating these with some ham or pork chops. Sweet potatoes they go really well with. What else? Black-eyed peas. But greens,